Hey guys, it's Jackie from Jack Gets Lost in a Book Hole, and I thought I would update you on my current reading status. So I just finished The Host, and I am so glad I reread this book. I remember I read this years ago, because I was a fan of Twilight. I'm not a twihard, but I'm not as, I don't hate it as much as some people do. And as I've said multiple times before, I get that Twilight has flaws and it's not the best form of literature. But I feel like The Host was so much better than Twilight. Unfortunately, because once you hear Stephenie Meyer's name, unless you were a Twihard or enjoyed Twilight, I'm sure it was a turnoff for a lot of people, but I personally think this was like the best. Well, not the best, but I really enjoyed it, and I haven't updated my Goodreads yet, but I think I will probably give it 5 stars. I mean, it's not the most perfect book, but it's definitely more thought provoking than Twilight, and there's a lot of improvements to her writing. So now I don't know how The Chemist is. I don't know if I even have any interest in that. I mean, maybe I will read it one day. But I haven't got around to it yet. So if you haven't, if you don't know what it's about, it's basically an alien invasion story, except for it's not the typical aliens are evil and they're gonna blow up the planet Earth and they're gonna take over the humans' minds. I mean that's essentially what they do, but they're they're non-violent creatures, except for, and not very aggressive unless you count the Seekers, who are kind of like the keepers of the law. And so our main character is Wanderer, and she takes over this one human, Melanie, she's very feisty and a fighter, and she's one of the few humans that does not die. And it's basically the two of them living in the same body. And then Wanda's job is to extract information from Melanie about the humans and stuff. So she tries to extract Melanie's memories, but then the memories start to affect Wanda emotionally. She starts to like Melanie's remaining brother, his little brother Jamie, and she starts to develop feelings for the boy that Melanie meets and falls in love with. Which, there's one little bit of thing that I was surprised by when I'm rereading this book. I did not realize how much older Jared is. Melanie's boyfriend is compared to her. He's in his 20s and she's only 17. And I was kind of surprised. I was surprised by that. I thought they were like the same age. I mean, maybe he was a little older than her, but I didn't think it was like a few years older than her. So I didn't remember that from reading the book before, and I didn't remember it from, and of course, when the movie, it's not like they acknowledge the age. There's no reference to the age that I can remember, unless the one scene in the book they brought it up. Maybe they did bring it up in the movie. I don't remember. But I was kind of surprised by the age difference. I did not expect that. So finally, Wanderer starts second guessing things, and Melanie's able to convince her to kind of side with the humans, or at least have a better understanding of the humans. So the two of them so during when she's having these memories, she gets one particular memory that's like a sort of map to where possibly where the remaining humans are located, like where Jared and Jamie might be. And Melanie convinces Wanda to go with her to follow this map to find if there's any humans left. And unfortunately, there's someone chasing the Seeker, or Wanderer's Seeker is following them. She's a bit more aggressive. She's a bit incredibly aggressive, and they both are scared and annoyed by her at the same time. And so she's chasing them while they are heading to wherever the secret location is in the desert. And they get there, and of course, naturally, the humans are hostile towards her. They don't trust her. They think Wanderer will betray them. They don't want her here, but Melanie's Uncle Jeb, and Jamie aren't so sure that she's the bad guy, and they figure they can try to make friends with her and get to know her better and get information from her. And of course, Jared is naturally pissed about this. He doesn't want this. He sees Wanderer as a parasite who's taken over Melanie's body. So but then Melanie, Jeb, being the clever man that he is, he kind of helps Wanderer adapt to the world, to their little secret world, because there are like a lot of humans remaining, including Melanie's remaining family. He helps her adapt, and she becomes part of the human world. And she even forms this bond with Jamie. She starts connecting, and Jamie starts actually seeing her. Also, Wanderer is also an older sister. Even Jeb gives her a nickname because Wanderer is a man of a mouthful. So he starts calling her Wanda, and then she ends up also striking a friendship with Ian O'Shea, who is one of the remaining humans. And he's kind of Jared's friend, and he starts to suspect that Wanda really is genuinely a good person, and she's not that much, she's more human than they realize. And he starts to actually like her and fall for her, but of course there's this whole conflict, but there's a whole conflict of Jared doesn't trust her. He thinks she's the enemy, and he wants to have her killed, and so does Ian's brother Kyle. And meanwhile, Melanie is struggling with this, and she's you hear her, Wanda can hear Melanie's thoughts, and they communicate, and Melanie's brokenhearted that Jared doesn't trust her, and she's just struggling with this, and she's debating, and they debate back and forth if Wanda should reveal that Melanie's still inside her head, because they'll think it's all a trick, that it's not real, that she's just saying anything to get out of, them killing her. So it's this whole conflict, and like I said, Wanda has developed these feelings for Jared, and she knows that of course Jared will never love her, and then she has these new feelings. She's starting to develop this relationship with Ian, although she's struggling with trusting him because he's a human, and she figures he'll just see her as a parasite. And so basically that's what it is, and it's about her adapting to this human world, and them struggling, and trying to, and basically looking at the difference between, like, what makes someone human. Just because you don't physically look like a human, if you have the same human emotions and everything, does that qualify you as being no different than the humans? And that's the question to ask. And I really enjoyed this book. I think I almost like the book better than the movie. I mean, I think the movie's great. And most of the time people do like the book versions better than the movie versions, because the movies have to take out a lot of stuff, and they have to trim it down. I mean, look at the sucker. It's huge. It's like, let's see, how many pages? It's 619 pages. And there's a lot of stuff in there that they couldn't include. But I did enjoy the movie, and that's kind of what motivated me to try to find a way to reread it again. Luckily, I saw it at my library, and I got very excited, so I ended up borrowing it, and I'll have to return it, this week. But this was and like I said, the fact that it deals with themes not just about the romance, but the relationships between this alien species and the humans, and how, like I said, what makes someone human? Is it the physical traits of a human, or is it the personality and the emotions and, how you feel? Is humanity does it go beyond physical traits of a human? I really like the characters. I really enjoyed Melanie and Wanda and their little relationship. It was very funny, this back and forth, and how, like this whole, it kind of has a love triangle, but it's not really a love triangle, it's more like a love square. And just that whole, like, Wanda still has the same feelings that Melanie has for Jared, and Jared of course at first hates Wanda and doesn't trust her, not realize that Melanie is still in there and still alive, and so both of them, so all three of them are struggling with that, and especially like Wanda and Melanie, the whole idea of that Wanda likes him, but he will never like her. And at one point when he starts this question, when he's like all suspicious and interrogating her and be like, why are you helping us? What makes you think we should trust you? And why did you come back here for me? And did you genuinely come back here for me and Jamie? Sorry, I'm getting the names mixed up. For me, and he ends up kissing her as an experiment, and of course that pisses off Melanie. And then there's also the fact that she's pissed off because, like, Ian's starting to like Wanda, and Wanda's starting to like Ian, but she still has these feelings for Jared that came from Melanie. So it's a very confusing little situation, but very hilarious. It's one of those few times where I think a love triangle is actually can be very entertaining. A love square, I should say. The only problem I had with this is, first of all, there were so many chapters that dwelled on more like, and maybe because it's such a thought-provoking book, Stephenie Meyer felt like she needed these type of chapters, but there's so many chapters that were like brief, that were basically just talking about humans reacting and their feelings on the situation and stuff. But maybe then again, in the case of this book, that was good. And then my other problem was there was a little bit of misogynism. I think that's the word. Basically, the whole I'm the man and I must protect you and I must take care of you and you have to do, and Now, it wasn't as bad as like in Twilight. That's one of the flaws of Twilight, is that Jacob and Edward, neither one of them were that great of a choice. So other than that, this book, like I said, I give it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I love both Melanie and Wanda, and just, their relationship is very funny and very interesting and beautiful. And even though, Melanie's the more aggressive, assertive one, Wanda, unlike Bella, even though she has this whole, I'm not going to kill anybody, and she's very sweet and everything, she knows what she wants. She gets her point out there. She's not someone who's to be walked all over and pushed around. She's still sensitive and considers other people's feelings. And I think she has conflicted emotion when it comes to Jared and Ian. But what girl doesn't have her moments of, weakness when it comes to a guy? I shouldn't use the word weakness, but and also there is one particular scene, where there's a few scenes in the book that I wish had been in the movie, but I know that it couldn't have been because it just wouldn't have worked. And then there's some aspects in the book, some things in the book that just, I'm glad they weren't in the movie. But there's some that I wish were in the movie. Like, there's a scene where when Jared's starting to kind of believe that Wanda might be telling the truth. After all, he's still not sure if he can trust her. And now before that, there was a scene where Ian's brother Kyle tried to kill Wanda because all of a sudden she was becoming they took her out of her little prison cell and she was starting to become part of the community, and Jared and Kyle were like, oh no, that's not going to happen. We can't, she's a parasite, she's evil, her kind kill our kind. And so Kyle tries to kill her, and he corners her and tries to kill her and drown her because there's these hot springs where they take baths, and he was gonna throw her in there and drown her, but it's unsuccessful, and some things happen, and they both end up at the hospital. And like I said, this is when Jared's starting to suspect that maybe she is really genuinely, maybe she's telling the truth, or at least maybe she's not the bad guy here. But he still refers to her as it. He's like, Kyle was trying to drown it. That's the truth. And finally Melanie snapped, or Wanda snapped and was like, okay, look, I am a female. I may not be of your species, but I'm a she. And he asked her, what proof do you have that you're female? And and she says, she admits that that just like humans, the female species of hers are the ones that carry the babies. Or they could potentially be mothers. So she basically is, so it gives, that leads to an awkward conversation where she kind of has to explain how that works in their species. And that, I just wish that had, or at least her outburst about being, like, I'm a she, not it. Not an it. And I remember just being, like, I remember watching the movie and reading the book also the first time and being like, yelling at the screen, be like, saying, she's not an it, stop calling her it. Even though I kind of understand on some level why they just see her as a parasite. So, I really love this book. I'm glad I reread it. I really enjoyed it. Sorry, as I'm sure you can see my dog's tail. So, I really enjoyed this. And I probably won't read it. I might not read it again because, like I said, this is a library book and I'm going to return it. And don't let the fact that it's by Stephenie Meyer, the same author of Twilight, as Twilight fool you, because this is a really great book. I mean, maybe you generally wouldn't like it, but I don't think that the fact that she also wrote Twilight being a hindrance to this book. Of course, it's been out for a while, so I'm sure a lot of people have read it by now and are rereading it. Or have already decided they're never going to read it. Okay, so I'm going to just update on you on, okay, so like I said, Tome Topple did not go as planned, but that was one of the tomes I read. And, I didn't quite finish it, but I finished it this morning, or early this afternoon. Oh, wow, sorry, 3 o'clock. Okay, so now I'm basically doing I've been doing Readathon as well, and that's kind of part of what hindered my Tome Topple, because Readathon, I got excited because it's all this month, and I got very, I was like, ooh, yay, it's a whole month, so I can do that. So I decided to continue with Tome Topple, but get on that and do that. So currently, okay, so first I've only read one book, unfortunately, for Readathon. But like I say, it's all months. I still got time to read more than one. And I am in the middle of some other ones right now. But that's partly because, like I said, I was doing Tome Topple, and then I have then that was a library book, the host was, and then I have another library book I'm reading. So, but this is what I read for one of the challenges, which was read a diverse book. And this is a diverse book because it's, as you can see by the author's name, it's a book about an Indian family. Not Native American. I know sometimes people politically incorrect wise they call Native Americans Indians, but I'm talking about actual people from India. This is a family from India, and basically how they end up coming. This couple, they get married and have kids, and the husband wants to come to America, and so he and his wife come to America. He's a professor, I believe, and they have 2 kids who are mostly American, and it's basically about this family, like, the 2 generations, and how the kids have a hard time, like, with their culture and everything, because, their parents really get them to, like, make sure they do not forget where they come from in their culture, and the kids just, because there's some things that, like, in other cultures that Americans we don't do, like having 2, like, there's one aspect of this family where they have, like, 2 names. They have your actual name, and then they have a temporary name that you're called. Something like that. And, in American culture, you might have a nickname or something, or, like, a shortened version of your whole first name, but that's it. There's no 2 different names. Except for, like, sometimes, like I said, you might have a nickname. And there's certain aspects of, like, the main kid's parents, his name is Gogol. They call him Gogol. He was named after his father's favorite author, Russian author. Well, Gogol, every time he has a party, his friends basically invite all their friends, and yeah, he might have his friend, they might, of course, invite some of his friends over, but it's usually their parties, even if it's a birthday party for the kids, is an excuse to have their own party with all their Indian friends. And this kind of irritates Gogol just like his name does too, and he just and it's a very really it's basically about that, his struggle and his parents' struggle and just all them going through life and relationships, and it is a really good. I really enjoyed it. And I think I gave it 5 stars too, just like I did The Host. And I definitely recommend it for, if you're interested, of course, in that kind of stuff. Because some people, of course, just aren't interested. So, Namesake, unfortunately, I don't know how to pronounce the author's last name. Okay, so now I'm currently reading all my books one of the challenges is read a book with a title with either the letters T, B, or R in the title. So I don't have any T's here, but any books that start with the letter T for the title. But I have the Bell Jar. I'm in the middle, obviously B for TBR. So I'm not very far in it. And I'm also reading because it's like a classic. But basically, this woman, how she slowly became crazy. But that's just from the summary. I mean, I've read a little bit, but I have a hard time explaining I have a hard time, especially if it's not one I'm completely invested in. I mean, I like it, but I'm not completely invested in the story yet. But it's definitely interesting. And the main woman, I think her name is Esther. She's definitely a very interesting woman. So that's good. Okay, then I'm also reading The Rosie Project. I'm not a huge romantic comedy fan, but sometimes I like to read them because they're, quick to get through and they can be very cute and entertaining. And this is basically about this professor who he is trying to find the perfect wife for himself. Unfortunately, he has Asperger's, or aka he's on the autism spectrum, so he's a bit unique, and but he's not aware of having Asperger's. He just thinks, he just sees himself probably as just someone who's socially awkward. I mean, unfortunately, people that have Asperger are seen that way as being socially awkward because they're very logical and very precise. They're not good in social situations. And he's basically trying to find a wife for himself, the perfect wife. And he has all these criteria. He makes a list, in fact, of all this criteria, like a non-smoker, she can't be a vegetarian. He wants to know what her BMI weight is, stuff like that. He's very particular, and it's just not, and of course, it's not going very well, and then he meets this woman, Rosie, who's very unique. She's a smoker, she's a bartender on the side, she's very eccentric, and she talks to him about this. She has her own little project going, the Father Project, where she's basically trying to find her biological father. And so he's helping her with that. But unfortunately, she is unsuitable for a wife, so he's just helping her in that department. He doesn't have her in mind as, a candidate for a wife. But of course, this is a romantic comedy, so you know what's gonna happen. But I really am enjoying this. Like I said, I do enjoy these type of books when I read them, but it's just not my go-to genre usually. One of the things I really like is the main character has Asperger or is on the autism spectrum. You don't see a lot of books like that. You might see movies about it, but you don't see it in romantic comedies. And I think it could really provide for a good story, whether it's a drama or a comedy. Now, I'm not saying that you should make fun of people like that, because that is messed up, especially since especially since we thought I might have been on the autism spectrum myself. So I kind of feel like a personal connection to this character, Dawn. And I feel like I would love to see more books about this, which actually this can classify as a diverse book because it is about someone who has this disability or disorder. I don't know. Sometimes even though I'm one of those people who has disabilities and stuff, sometimes I have trouble figuring out what would you classify as a disorder and what would you classify as a disability. But this is a really good, like I said, this is for the R in TBR. And then I have one more R. Like I said, I have no T's. I mean, if I looked around, I'm sure I could find one. But I also realized that I could continue reading this. I started reading this a while back. I haven't finished it. Not that I love it, and I love Maggie Stiefvater's writing style. I still don't know if I will ever get around to reading her Wolves of Mercy Falls series because I'm kind of away from that whole paranormal, urban fantasy storylines. I mean, I like this one because it's not just some paranormal. I mean, it has romance and it's about teenagers, but it's not that. What I like about this one is it doesn't give that cheesy, sexy immortal guy vibe. The girl falls for a mysterious immortal guy that shows up like he's a vampire or werewolf. Because this is more magical realism. And I love all these characters are very unique. They're not just the typical, boys from paranormal fantasies. They're all like unique, and it's basically these boys. If you haven't heard of Raven Boys, it's about these 5 characters, the Raven Boys, who are from this preparatory school. They're all kind of on the rich side, except for one of them is not rich. He's like a scholarship kid, and they're the leader of their group. Richard Gansey is his actual name, but he calls himself Gansey. He prefers people call him Gansey. He's trying to figure out. There's this belief. He's trying to figure out this legend of this famous king that that once you find the king, then he will grant you whatever wish you want. And he's obsessed with finding this king. And he meets this, and there's also the other character out of the 4 boys is Blue Sargent, who is from a family of psychics. And unfortunately, she has no psychic power herself, but she can amplify other people's psychic powers. And somehow she, meets these Raven boys despite her mother being like, you shouldn't associate with these boys. And also, the first thing you hear about when you hear about this book is that one of the conflicts of this story is that she finds out that the first boy she kisses will be her true love, and when she kisses her true love, he will die. And it is believed that one of these Raven boys, that's what they call him, is one of them is her true love. And she also sees the ghost of Gansey while, doing some psychic, like, I can't remember what it was, but they were, one of her mom or one of her aunts or whatever, she was with them, and they were, one of them was kind of seeing beyond the veil of the supernatural veil, and Blue sees the ghost of Gansey. And as of right now, Blue has joined them in their search for this mythical king. Because she actually, like, Gansey leaves the book, this little planner book that he has with all the information about this king, and she finds it, and she reads his book and really gets fascinated with it, and she goes with them to find it, and that's why she ends up agreeing to go with them to find this king. So, I know a lot of people say that the beginning is slow, and maybe it is, but I had no problem with it. I mean, that's not why I keep taking breaks from it. It's just I have so many other books that I'm trying to read and, get out of the way so that, eventually I can donate them to bookstores or give them to someone else to read, like my mom. But either way, I really love the story, and I'm more than halfway through. And I love her writing style, and I just love her descriptions, and I would love to be able to write like this. She's definitely, a lot of authors, sometimes certain authors, their stories or their writing style kind of inspires how I would like to write one day, because I want to be an author too someday. Unfortunately, I get distracted easily, so it's very difficult for me to focus on my writing, because I'm good at the planning, coming up with the ideas, but it's just actually sitting down and writing. I mean, and I really do want to become an author. It's just hard for me to focus and concentrate on that, because there's just too many distractions. But anyway, I'm really liking this book. I'm really enjoying it, and I was so happy when it turns out that it's an R book. It's a book that starts with the letter R, so R and TBR. And TBR, oh gosh, I think probably when I said R. But it works. So I'm very happy about that. So that's what I've read so far. I still have a lot to read. Like I said, unfortunately, I only got one book done, but, if I keep reading the Rosie Project, I should be able to get it done quickly, and the same with the Raven Boys. Okay, so that's my update, my current reading update right now, and, I hope you guys enjoy my video, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.